Welcome everyone to tonight's San Jose Council District 5 Candidate Forum hosted by District 5 United. Spanish and Vietnamese live translation was sponsored by United Neighborhoods of Santa Clara County. District 5 United has strived to improve the quality of life in East San Jose since 2011. United Neighborhoods of Santa Clara County is a nonprofit corporation that provides insurance and other benefits to member neighborhoods. Welcome to the 5 candidates tonight in alphabetical order. That's Rolando Bonilla, Nora Campos, H.G. Nguyen, Peter Ortiz, and Andres Quintero. Just a little bit of background. Those who registered for this forum were able to suggest questions. About 30 questions were suggested and then categorized. Since we only have time for 5 questions for all 5 candidates, 5 of the categories were prioritized. The questions that corresponded to those 5 categories were then consolidated so that we had 1 question per category. Conveniently, there are 5 candidates and 5 questions. So we will take the questions in alphabetical order. Rolando Bonilla will answer the first question beginning first, then Nora Campos the second question, then H.G. Nguyen the third question, then Peter Ortiz the fourth question, then Andres Quintero the 5th question. I know that was all intuitive, but I'm just trying to make sure I mention everybody's name equally. So we will go ahead and get started. First opening statement will be provided by Rolando. And go ahead, Rolando.
Again, buenas noches. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rolando Bonilla, and I have the privilege of being here tonight. You know, for me, this campaign falls down to 2 questions. Question number 1 is, do we continue accepting the status quo and the record of candidly failure that status quo has delivered for East San Jose? From illegal dumping to crime to parking issues, all of these issues generate from the fact that we have never had leadership at this district council office that has had a true understanding of how to manage and move this district forward. Or do we finally accept that the time for new direction has come and that we actually elect someone that has not only the life training and skills, but the actual technical skills, as I have a law degree, to actually go to City Hall and fight to bring our resources back to our community? See, I'm raising 3 kids in this community. This is home. This is where I'm going to raise my kids. This is where I'm going to hopefully play with my grandkids one day. And I cannot allow fundamentally for politicians to continue seeking to represent our community, but in the process, never prioritize it appropriately, never financially resource it appropriately. And that puts us in a situation where year after year, we become farther removed from the city of San Jose as a whole. All you have to do is walk outside, illegal dumping. All you have to do is walk outside, crime, homelessness, lack of parking. That is the record of my opponents. They all claim to have served you. And I'm not minimizing their service, but there comes a time where you have to recognize their limitations. And their body of work ultimately is what we're living in today. So for me, this campaign is really about, do we want more of the same, which candidly will continue taking us on a downward spiral that we're all experiencing. I talk to neighbors every single day. We all have the same conversations. Or do we finally fight out of this oppressive status quo and fight to create economic opportunities, fight to ensure that public safety is a top priority? My opponents have all voted against public safety. In fact, 2 of them voted to defund police officers at their districts. That is what this is about. Do we want a new perspective, or do we want more of the same that continues to cause pain, that continues to push us back further back in this community, and we just can't let that happen. So this fight for me is not just about District 5. It is about ensuring that we do not lose another generation of young people, that we do not lose another opportunity to grow our community, to change our community, to give it more vibrancy, because it has vibrancy despite the fact that we've been neglected by City Hall. But imagine how much more we can do if we actually had someone at that council office that not only had the understanding of the process, but actually has the actual technical understanding of how to move the needle and make change happen. Look at how much I've accomplished in simply 1 year as a planning commissioner. From reforming the Planning Commission, to starting the East San Jose COVID Relief Fund, to passing the toughest illegal dumping bill in the state of California. Those things happened because at the end of the day, when you elect Rolando Bonilla as your council member, you're electing someone with experience, life experience, and more important, the technical experience to maneuver through that legislative process and be able to actually make District 5 a priority. My opponents will tell you to judge them on their record. I implore you to judge them on their record, because if their record was as pristine as they claim it to be, we wouldn't have the issues that we have today. Fact of the matter.
Rolando.
Thank you.
And so next, I should have emphasized that there are time constraints. And so candidates, you all have 3.5 minutes for your introduction. Now, when we get to questions, the constraint will be 2 minutes per response. And so next, Nora Campos, your introductory statement, please.
Hello, and it's great to be here with everyone. I'm Nora Campos, and I served on the City Council in 2001 and 2010, and then served 6 years in the State Assembly representing you. I am running to bring my leadership to the City Council to put forward policies to grow a middle class and that can thrive in this city. I'm also running to create policy that support the working class community in East San Jose and people of this city so they can support their families with one job. Just imagine an infrastructure with affordable housing and housing for our unhoused population, healthcare, public safety where you can walk out your front door no matter where you live and visit your neighbor in park or shopping center. City services that are fully staffed and workers know that they have a stable job with benefits. I come from a family that is rooted in this community. My father was a United Auto Worker, and my mother was a teacher and retired with the Alum Rock School District. I'm a mother of a child that attends Alum Rock School, and I have to say that he is getting a very good education. He's in his last year, and we're looking at high school. When I served on the City Council, I served with Senator Dave Cortese, and we were fierce defenders of working families. And we moved policies that created a city that built strong neighborhoods, libraries, fire stations, economic development. We took on Story and King and community centers. I have the experience to accomplish what we need to build strong neighborhoods right here in East San Jose. I've done it before and we can do it again. I look forward to working with you on what our community will look like and feel like. And public safety has always been a priority for me. When I served on the City Council, we were the safest big city in America. I took on the mayor at that time and added an additional 25 police officers to the budget, and he voted against his budget. In the history of San Jose, that had never happened, and I'm proud of that. Being able to maneuver and strategically get what we need in this community is what I bring to this debate, and also what I would bring to the council. I look forward to serving you, and I hope you strongly consider supporting my campaign. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And next we have H.G. Nguyen.
Yes, thank you so kindly. Good evening. Buena tarde. Xin kính chào quý vị. My name is H.G. Nguyen. I am the candidate for City Council District 5, and I'm honored to be here tonight. I am a small business woman, and I have diverse experience working in private and nonprofit sectors, as well as government agencies and offices. And I'm here tonight to ask for your help to elect me to the City Council of District 5. I want to make the East Side San Jose the best side San Jose. I want us to live in a nice, safe, and harmonious environment. Not only that, I want to create a unity in diversity that we all can learn and embrace each other's languages and cultures. My friends, I am experienced. I am committed to fair mind, no nonsense, and I am a problem solver that District 5 needs. I want this job because I know I can help to improve District 5 significantly, but I don't need this job. So tonight, I appeal to you to ask for your help to elect me as the City Council of District 5. And together, we can make East Side best side. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Xin cảm ơn tất cả quý vị. And especially thank you for District 5 United, Juan and Christine and Anna. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Peter Ortiz.
Thank you, Juan. Hello, fellow District 5 residents. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. My name is Peter Ortiz. I'm currently the president of the Santa Clara County Board of Education and candidate for San Jose City Council, District 5. I appreciate this opportunity to share about myself and my candidacy for public office. I'm not someone who was ever supposed to hold elected office or even make it out of the school to prison pipeline. I'm not the type of person who has made my career or built my wealth in politics. I'm running for city council as a grassroots community organizer who will be a steadfast advocate for our working people of East San Jose because I'm a member of this community. I grew up in a working class home and come from a family that was both impacted by domestic violence and gang activity. Luckily, I was able to overcome these barriers, which I attribute to being raised by a selfless and resilient single mother who raised me and my brothers on her own. In fact, it was watching my mother struggle that which instilled in me a passion to give back to my community and those less fortunate. As we all know, for generations, East San Jose has been intentionally underinvested in compared to more affluent neighborhoods in this city. This has had detrimental effects, not just on our residents, but on our local economy. Our campaign for city council is about revitalizing our neighborhoods of East San Jose to spark a renaissance of art and culture within District 5. That is why I'm calling for a people-first economic package that will focus on raising the quality of life for all of our residents by fully investing in public safety through the hiring of first responders and developing intervention programs for our youth so that East Side families can feel comfortable walking in their own neighborhoods. Allocating resources to fix our broken roads and establishing speed bumps and traffic control measures to mitigate speeding in our residential areas. Revitalizing our major corridors through storefront and neighborhood association grants to attract visitors and residents to frequent our culturally rich community. And of course, the ongoing prioritization of the beautification of East San Jose. I'm honored to be endorsed by the South Bay Labor Council, Assembly members Osh Kalra, Alex Lee, State Senator Bob Wykowski, retired Senator Jim Bell, and of course, the current District 5 Council member, Magdalena Carrasco. As I said in the beginning, I'm not a typical politician, and I'm not running a typical campaign. All these issues are important to me because I've been actively working in this community to address them. And I want to work hand in hand with the residents of this district to identify solutions to the problems facing our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Okay, and next is Andres Quintero.
All right. Thank you, Juan, and everybody who came together and put in the work to make this happen. Feels like I'm right at home. Some of those old meetings that I, pre-COVID was able to visit and to engage with you, interact. And so I'm looking forward to getting back to those times. Remember working with Juan to actually put in sidewalks right there in the Lindale neighborhood, And so Very, very appreciative of this opportunity you provided me today. East San Jose is my home, born and raised. This is where I'm raising my family. I'm teaching at Evergreen Valley College. This is it. And so that's why for me, it's not sophistry, it's not theoretical. The things that are taking place every day are impacting my family, friends, neighbors. And so for me, it's important. It's very, very important to begin to address those issues that for too long have gone disregarded. Just today, we saw the actions that took place at Eastridge where a smash and grab took place again. This reminds us that a safe and secure east side is incredibly important. And that's why I've made that my top priority. I want to ensure that our families can walk around. They can go to the neighborhood park without having to decide whether or not their safety is going to be compromised. We have some of our parks out here in the east side that have been overtaken. Children no longer have access to safe space to where they can play. And so these are the things that have informed my decisions as to what's going to be a priority. I have a track record that I'm very proud of on the Allen Rock School Board. Many people have run away and they thought it was too difficult of a challenge. I didn't. And for that reason, I've been supported by individuals like District Attorney Jeff Rosen, who understands the need for public safety and looked into Allen Rock, determined that I was doing the right thing when nobody else was watching. He likes my character and he's decided to go ahead and endorse my race. Same thing with Supervisor Cindy Chavez, who stepped up and has taken a position on this race and has endorsed my candidacy. These individuals are county leaders that are looking at major issues. And they're from this county, actually, Santa Clara County, not from San Mateo, not from other places. And they've decided to step in and endorse my candidacy. I'm very proud of that. It speaks volumes. These individuals have a track record themselves of success, and they're putting it on the line so that they can go ahead and ensure that there's somebody at City Hall looking out for East San Jose. Now, Allen Rock went through some very difficult times. I'm proud that I took the position of having to go ahead and make some very, very difficult decisions. They're very tough. These weren't just advisory votes. They were going to have challenges. They were going to have difficulties, but we had to do them. And so as a result, we were able to grow back many of the things that we had to go ahead and shave off years ago. Unfortunately, the challenges haven't ended. We've had to make tough decisions. I'm proud that every school in Allen Rock is still open, has a school. We actually went ahead and brought in all of our students into some of our top performing schools at some of our sites, because that's exactly what our children deserve, a quality and dignified education. So it's a record of commitment, of dedication to East San Jose. I'm proud of that. I'll stand by it, and I'm going to continue to move forward. You can go ahead and bet that I will take that to City Hall and continue to advocate and make sure that our side of town gets its fair share. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you, Andres, and thank you to all of the candidates. And next, we'll move into the candidate questions and responses. And as noted earlier, there are 5 categories that were prioritized, and the questions were consolidated into those categories. And I will review the guidelines for candidate responses. To begin with, I want you to know that these were provided to candidates and that they're not intended to mean that anything was expected, simply so everybody's on the same page. And the first guideline is that the focus of each response must be the candidate. Candidates can talk about themselves, their platform, accomplishments, goals, plans, etc. It must be focused on the candidate. Second is that candidates cannot discuss other candidates or the current council person. We want to learn about you. Third, candidates cannot exceed the allotted time per question. That's 2 minutes. We've got a short night and we've just got to stick to it. And for that reason, should one of you forget, I know that it can be distracting, I will go ahead and mute after 2 minutes. And the last one is that candidates cannot interrupt other candidates. I don't expect that to happen. Again, just trying to make sure we're all on the same page. And so now we'll go to the questions. And since Rolando went first with the introductions, then we'll switch to the next letter, and Nora Campos will answer the first question. I'll start over by saying that the topic is land use. We had many suggested questions regarding land use. And the question is, our district is impacted by many land use topics. This includes, but is not limited to A, absentee landlords whose properties are resulting in neighborhood issues, B, urban villages, and C, the Berryessa flea market, because some of the vendors live in our district. The flea market is actually in a different district. So what topics would you prioritize addressing and how?
Thank you for the question. I will actually address all of them. Housing is such a fundamental need for our community. These issues don't exist in a vacuum. They will be part of a comprehensive plan I will lead. Urban villages are a nice label to place on good urban planning. Our goal is to create housing, to create enough housing types to meet all income needs. The fact is, we have to do our part to house people where jobs are located and build them on transit lines. This is a real need we have. Transit is a critical part of an urban village. If higher density is to be built on major thoroughfares, VTA has to plan multiple modes and efficient transit options. Let's stress the flea market. Vendors at the flea market should be pushing the city hard to hold the city to its commitment to provide a new facility within the flea market project for their businesses. In fact, this should be a condition in order for the developer to receive final certification of occupancy. The city attorney's office has been part of many negotiations that were very complicated. They would need to pay more attention to the flea market like they did the Google site. That's where I will work with them. When it comes to safety of the public, I am unapologetic when it comes to protecting the health and safety of our community. I will work with the city attorney's office to enforce code enforcement. Many of our residents in District 5 live in housing where landlords are charging high rents, but don't keep up the maintenance required to keep their units safe and clean. The city has a history of taking actions on absentee landlords like Homer Apartments, Pokeway, and Santee. I will work with the city of San Jose's city attorney to address these issues in the Foxdale apartment because there are major issues that need to be addressed there. And those are the things that I will do to make sure that we move forward in East San Jose and that we can have a safe place for everyone to live and respectable housing for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have HG Nguyen.
Our city already has programs and regulations to cope with code issues created by absentee landlords. My office and myself will work tightly with our neighborhood residents to make sure these problematic properties are up to code. This is one of my top priorities. You see, the Berryessa flea market was already ordered. Moving forward, we have to work wisely and efficiently to have our small business community in the flea market receive fair relocation assistance. When I was working with RDA, I was in charge to help relocate 94, I repeat, 94 Asian businesses on East Santa Clara Street that now houses City Hall. So yes, I have proven records to successfully advocate for the voiceless business people to receive fair relocation assistance to help rebuild their businesses at different locations. And they are now operating profitably. Some are expanded their businesses to more than one stores. Regarding urban villages, you know, this is the trend right now. I am committed to work closely with all of you to ensure that your ideas and input are heard at City Hall. Together, we will make District 5 better for everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And next is Peter Ortiz.
Thank you, Juan. Absentee landlords have had a serious implication on our community. From residents living in these buildings and not being offered adequate services or basic amenities, to their neighbors dealing with the ripple effects of poor maintained properties. I will support and expand the City Responsible Landlord Engagement Initiative and Project Hope that address this issue through accountability and community organizing. We also need to take a serious look at problematic properties, and as a city, evaluate if property owners that are hurting our community should continue to own these properties. In other jurisdictions, such as Oakland, properties can be taken away through receivership, and a qualified entity better suited to address the needs of the community can come in and take over. This is something I will prioritize for properties like Foxdale and other problematic properties in order to address the issue at its core. We have hundreds of buildings with several code enforcement violations in this district alone. Property management practices that put profit ahead of the district and well-being of their tenants will not be tolerated when I am on the City Council. The urban village was intended to create an area for increased jobs and housing of all income levels. Going forward, it's essential for planned growth initiatives such as urban villages to be subject to beyond robust community engagement. Small business leaders, neighborhood associations, community-based organizations need to give input and recommendations on how increased development should support, not hinder, existing ecosystems. And then finally, I'll also prioritize advocating for the vendors of the Berryessa Flea Market, something that I've done throughout the entire process of the closing of the Berryessa Flea Market. I was highly involved in the grassroots campaign to advocate on behalf of the vendors, and I will continue this advocacy once on the City Council. By advocating for the city to invest resources to support displaced vendors, whether it's assisting vendors with identifying a new location for the flea market, helping vendors with marketing and business support, as well as opening brick and mortar businesses in District 5.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and next is Andres Quintero.
All right, with regard to land use, 3 words come to mind: form-based zoning. For East San Jose, it has become the tool that's being used to railroad and to push projects that wouldn't go elsewhere otherwise. I'm very concerned, and you can go ahead and have my commitment that I'm going to make every effort, and I'm going to make sure that we go ahead and remove that heinous, horrible thing that has been wrought upon the people of East San Jose to place upon us projects that wouldn't be able to be moved in similar fashion in other places. With minimal documentation, projects are being brought forward. There's stacks and stacks of paperwork that have to go, EIRs, other things that have to take place on the western side of town, and that doesn't happen with us. And so we have to go ahead and look back and fix those processes, those errors that were made in the past, to make sure that as we move forward, East San Jose is allowed to envision its own future, allowed to plot its own course. And so I want to start off with that. With regard to absentee landlords, there is methods and the ability to go ahead and take on even the strongest, most egregious of absentee landlords. The Foxdale Apartments was mentioned. I happen to have had the opportunity to work and to ensure that the same operators of Foxdale Apartments who were operating in another district, who were engaging in some questionable decisions, were made to account for the actions that they were taking, that they were forced, basically, because it wasn't easy, to invest heavily into the upkeep and the maintenance of their facilities, of their units. It requires work. I'm up for it. I've done it, and I'm glad to step up and do it again here in District 5. With regard to the flea market, I'm very concerned. I am a true believer in private property, and I'm not supportive of removing people's private property. However, I do believe that the city needs to act. We don't need a small business administration. We have a small business incubator in the flea market, an investment in ensuring that those individuals are able to retain their businesses would be an investment into the future of San Jose. So I believe that
Andres.
bold action needs to be taken. Thank you.
Next up, we have Rolando Bonilla.
You know, as far as land use, I actually agree with Mr. Quintero. Form-based zoning has been a scourge in our community. And for those of you that I've worked with closely on this issue for the last year and a half, we have made it a priority to undo this horrible policy that was passed by former council member Javier Campos. This policy has made it easy for folks to come into our district and essentially ignore the standards that are applied to other districts. And in my mind, it must be eradicated on day one. From there, we also have to build an economic package. Many of you may remember that I've been working closely with the city, trying to negotiate for the city to purchase a lot of the private properties along the Alum Rock corridor. I worked, in fact, with some folks that are in the audience today. Why? The city has the ability to purchase these properties, to generate growth capital for the city, but also to give a lot of our flea market vendors, for example, the opportunity to actually have brick and mortar stores in the heart of East San Jose. And if you recall, I've been very front and center on the fight to strengthen our economy, given that I started the East San Jose COVID Relief Fund and raised a little over $200,000 in the middle of the pandemic to support these businesses. But the fact of the matter is this: if we do not come together and utilize all of the resources and tools of the city, then again, we're going to continue talking, but no action. And Foxdale is a great example of that. The last 3 council members, let me repeat that, the last 3 council members have had the ability to use the full weight of the city attorney's office to impose sanctions on Foxdale's ownership, to legally force Foxdale to correct a lot of the issues within that community, and they have not. Having a legal background, I will tell you, now within my first 45 days in office, I will be very clear in forming an immediate legal response to Foxdale and any other absentee landlords out there who think they can dump in our community and treat people without dignity. I've been homeless. When I was in high school, we lost our home. And I know the importance of having a dignant home, place to call home, and the city has a role in ensuring that. So those are things that we can do immediately without a lot of legislative support necessary, that are within the discretion of the council office, that I would immediately inject. And I will say, the barrier. Go ahead.
Rolando. All right. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next question. Just a reminder to everyone not to reference current council members or other candidates in responses. And so the next question, the category is commitment to District 5. There were multiple questions related to this, and they were consolidated into the following question. And the question which HG Wynn will go first on is, what are your top 3 priorities, and how will you hold yourself and the city accountable? How will you ensure your office is available and accessible to meeting with the community and meeting their needs? And what role does equity play in this? HG?
Thank you, Juan. My top 3 priorities are very clear and simple: public safety, homelessness encampment, small business revitalization and development. My friends, we are in this together. I cannot do it by myself. You cannot do it by yourself. And the City Hall cannot do it by itself. This is why we are in this mess together right now. But we have to work together to make sure our East Side San Jose, the best side San Jose. As your City Council member, the first day I am in office, the first thing I will do is to schedule meetings with you, our District 5 neighborhood associations, our neighborhood business community, our government agencies, law enforcement, and court enforcement. Together, we combine all resources available to turn East Side best side. This is one of the main reasons why I'm running to represent you in City Hall. I'm known as people-oriented, and I'm known as problem solver. I don't practice lip service and I don't like laziness. Together, we will make a difference in District 5, and yes, we can do it with your help. Thank you.
Okay, next is Peter Ortiz.
Thank you, Juan. As mentioned in my opening statement, as your city council member, I will champion a people-first economic package that will be rooted in equity, prioritize the needs of our most vulnerable populations, and focus on raising the quality of life for all of our residents in District 5. My first priority is to support our youth in our community by fully investing in our public spaces, including parks, libraries, youth centers, developing mentorship and counseling programs to keep our kids safe and off the streets, and advocating for the funding of an East San Jose job training program to get our residents back into the workplace. My second priority is to make sure that our families, neighborhoods, and small businesses are safe and protected by addressing neighborhood blight and high crime levels, so that no matter what zip code you live in District 5, you can feel safe at all hours of the day. And finally, focusing on improving the quality of life by securing funding for anti-graffiti and litter programs, park maintenance and revitalization, pedestrian-friendly corridors, a responsive vehicle abatement program, and the investment in resources to address the homeless population in our district. I will hold myself accountable by establishing a roundtable of advisors made up of neighborhood leaders and community-based organizations who I will have both informal and formal meetings with to develop a vision for our district, share my progress on set priorities, and solicit feedback and input on important votes that come before me on the council. I will make it a priority to make myself and my staff attend all community and neighborhood meetings, and will maintain an open door policy on all topics that impact our city. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is Andres Quintero.
All right. With regard to the top 3 priorities, I think I've been pretty clear, and it's been public safety, quality of life, and housing. We have some serious issues affecting East San Jose. I didn't develop those priorities in a vacuum. They're based off of the impact, the feedback, the information that I'm getting from the community, and the things that I'm seeing out there as well. Abraham Maslow identifies a hierarchy of needs, for those of you who've looked into them. The fact of the matter is that we need safety, and it's a priority. If you don't have safety, if you don't take care of your physiological needs, and then you don't take care of safety for people, you're going to not be able to succeed. So you can have all of the grand ideas. If you don't have a place where people can raise their families in a safe way, if you can't come back home and know that you're the things that allow you to reproduce yourself, your tools, your things that are there, you're not going to be able to move ahead, and all your plans are going to come to are not going to be realized. And so with that said, there's a limited amount of things that the city really has an influence on, very, very seriously, directly. Public safety is one of them, and that needs to be a priority. With regard to quality of life, we have things that are impacting our neighborhoods that shouldn't be acceptable anywhere. Piles of garbage and people next to people's homes, sitting around for a year on end and nothing's being done. I'm proud of the fact that we went ahead and stepped up and pushed the city to go ahead and adopt a policy that allowed for the creation of safe routes to school. I mean, safe routes to school in the form of not having needles, tents that are being impeding the way of children to get to and from school. That's what I've been doing as a school board member already in my capacity in a narrowly focused way as a school board member. I'm looking forward to continue to serve you on the city council to continue to affect positive change in the city. With regard to
Thank you, Andres.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Next is Rolando Bonilla.
I would say homelessness, public safety, and youth programs. I think when you look at our district, we are a hardworking community. We've all built a nice home for ourselves, families for ourselves. The fact of the matter is we need help from the city in terms of stepping up, in terms of the basics, right? Homelessness. People should have a dignified place to call home, but equally, we also have to be honest about the fact that there are community repercussions to the city's inability to address the homeless issue. I think I just touched upon it a little bit, right? When you talked about needles and tents along the neighborhoods, that's just not acceptable, right? We should not be held hostage because the city does not have a plan for homelessness. So with that in mind, homelessness must be a top priority. Immediately after that, public safety. The centerpiece of any program must be a strong public safety background. That is what is going to give people the confidence to go to our youth centers, to walk our business corridors, to go to the parks. Let's be honest, you go to Cassell Park, you have to check for needles first and human excrement. That's unacceptable. We work too hard for that to be the norm. And as far as youth programs, given the reality, I grew up in a tough environment. Crime was an option for me, but I never undertook that. It was nothing for me, but it was tough. It was tough. It was tough. And what we needed, what helped me get through it was youth programs, youth support. And at the end of the day, the city does have a major role in that and can shape that. As far as accountability, I'm already doing it. Every time I knock on a door, every time I talk to a neighbor, and many of you already have this, I give out my cell phone number. We're council members. Let's be honest. We're not running for Pope. We're not running for President of the United States. We are the city council. Our job is to be accessible and available 24/7 to our constituents, whether it's a crime issue, whether it's, roots from a tree on your sidewalk. The council member personally has to be available, and then immediately after staff. So I will continue that practice of giving out my cell phone, of giving out my personal email, and of making it very clear that accessibility to our constituents must at all times be a priority. Because what I don't want is what often happens at City Hall. People get elected and go to the city council, and all of a sudden they're having debates about national issues and they forget about us. Under a council member Bonilla term,
Thank you.
I will be accessible.
All right, thank you, Rolando. Next is Nora Campos.
Thank you for the question. My top priorities as I've been walking the neighborhoods would be public safety, housing, and housing the unhoused population, neighborhoods. I will work to create a strong infrastructure that supports the current neighborhood associations and assists with services to create new neighborhood associations. When I left office, we had 23 strong neighborhood associations. I will bring back the neighborhood roundtable where I met with leaders of the neighborhood associations quarterly. And we held a working session on what we need to put forward in the budget and policies for the neighborhoods. As I have before, attend the individual neighborhood associations meetings because that is where we got a lot of the work done. For example, the people that came with me were code enforcement, parks and recreation and neighborhood services, the city attorney, the Department of Transportation would attend these meetings so that they can develop a relationship firsthand with the neighborhoods and hear their concerns and work side by side with them as they address the issues. Why I share that with you, through this process with the neighborhood leaders, we built parks, playgrounds, paved streets, built libraries, even brought the farmers market to James Lake. We installed street lights, built skate parks, and implemented traffic calming measures. Equity has always been a priority for me, and I will work with the new Department of Racial Equity to include neighborhood associations when they're determining where the priorities need to be when addressing equity in the city of San Jose. That is what I will do, and I hope I have the opportunity to do it side by side with all of you in East San Jose. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I want to let all of the attendees know that chat was disabled earlier, and so that feature is no longer available. And just another reminder to the candidates about the guidelines for responses. I won't repeat them, but it would be ideal if we could all limit those. And that is not in response to anyone particular. I'm not trying to specify anybody right now. Please do keep those in mind. The third question was related to crime and safety. So many of the questions were related to crime and safety. That's the category. And Peter Ortiz will go first. And the question is, our district faces many challenges that impact safety. For example, gang-related graffiti tagging, drugs, blight, speeding, illegal dumping, and insufficient street lighting. How would you promote safety and deter crime in our district?
Thank you for the question. The safety of our community is one of my top priorities for public office. I've been in our neighborhoods talking to both residents and business owners whose lives have been personally impacted by the increase of crime and violence in our district. As a neighborhood leader in District 5, I have personally organized and participated in community town halls on public safety, the increase of car break-ins, armed robberies, and the public use of drugs in our neighborhoods. It's important for us to understand that this issue is not just about statistics. This is about people's lives and the lives of their families. I've met with a small business owner, Maria, who owns a market in the Alum Rock Village, who's already had her windows broken twice by robbers and now has had to replace them with boards to keep them out. I also met with the 3 jewelry store owners at Tropicana who suffered from a smash and grab, resulting in hundreds of thousands of dollars being lost due to a senseless crime. As a city, we need to invest more in public safety efforts by doing everything we can to recruit quality first responders and law enforcement professionals. It's no secret that our city has had a hard time retaining public safety staff ever since the implementation of Measure B, which gutted pensions and staff benefits. There's no way we can improve public safety unless we are able to hire and retain quality public safety staff. Our city must also prioritize people-centered approaches to address problems in neighborhoods prevalent to crime and gang activity. Our focus must be to give our youth opportunities outside of that lifestyle. We need to address the cycle of crime at its root and guide our kids away from crime before they slip through the cracks and end up in the justice system. We can do this through a premier job training program that connects our youth in crime-impacted communities to jobs that pay thriving and livable wages here in Silicon Valley. We can get them the skills they need to make a true living. I believe the best way to stop a crime and the best way to stop a bullet is through a good paying job. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is Andres Quintero.
With regard to crime and safety, the fact of the matter is that some of the things that have been highlighted here are the things that I'm hearing from constituents, from voters out there as we're talking. And that's why I've based my top priority is ensuring that we have a safe and secure East San Jose. Fact of the matter is that we have some significant issues with regard to all the things that have been mentioned. We need somebody who's going to be able to step in, hold true, and forge ahead, and not think about what's going to be said. What is anybody else going to go ahead and think about me? The fact of the matter is that we have to focus on the needs of East San Jose and take action based on that, not on what's going to be cool, what's going to pull well. The fact of the matter is that there's a reason why the district attorney is supporting me. In other circles, I've actually been attacked for it, and that's fine. They're entitled to their opinion. I'm unapologetic of the fact that East San Jose needs to be safe, that we need to have a place where our families can live safely, they can thrive, they can engage in activities, worship, play. And so I'm not going to mince any words. My priority is public safety. I'm supported by the district attorney for that reason, because he knows that I'm going to go ahead and place that as the #1 priority. I'm not going to go ahead and take a look at what the optics are going to look like, how somebody going to come and attack me because they don't believe that public safety is a real issue in East San Jose. Well, maybe they live in another part of the valley. Maybe they live in another more affluent area of the city. The fact of the matter is that we're living every day with individuals that are being attacked. We see this in our neighborhood groups where individuals are saying, hey, we are Cardenas Market and somebody just attacked my aunt. These are the things that are taking place in our community. And we need to be unapologetic about the fact that we're going to focus, we're going to prioritize this as the #1 issue without having to be concerned about how others are going to take it, if they're going to get offended, things of that sort. I place the needs of my community first, and anybody else can take a back seat. I got to focus on East San Jose first.
All right, thank you. Next is Rolando Bonilla.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a great question. I mean, that's the heart and soul of why we're here. And as the only candidate that's never voted to defund police, I will start by stating the obvious. We need to raise our police officer levels to be more appropriate with the largest city in the Bay Area and the 10th largest city in the country. So one of the things I will push for is an increase in police officers to bring us to a 2022 standard. From there, I will also propose that we incorporate an East San Jose police substation in order to ensure that we have neighborhood beat, in order to ensure that community members feel safe, businesses feel safe. Equally, I will ensure that we invest dollars into youth prevention programs. I do agree with some of my opponents here that youth prevention programs must be a critical component to this, but that's a long-term play. In the short term, we're going to need to raise our police officer levels to 2022 levels, and we're also going to have to bring a police substation into East San Jose. Because let me be very clear, the problems that we're dealing with today are problems that have compounded year after year after year after year. So when you hear about what folks are going to do into the future, keep in mind about the fact that these things have been happening in the present, and that we're all having to now deal with the lack of systematic planning, with the lack of understanding of the necessary tools that are needed to keep East San Jose safe. It's simple. More law enforcement, youth prevention programs, and a police substation right in our district. Let us make ourselves a standard. You want economic development? People need to feel safe. You want kids to thrive? Kids need to feel safe. You want families to enjoy parks? People need to feel safe. And until we have a council member that actually understands that and has the technical skills to get that funding, we're always going to be playing catch up. So that is my commitment to you. I will push for an immediate increase in terms of 2022 levels that are appropriate for the largest city in the Bay Area. And equally, I will push to have a police substation in East San Jose. There is no reason we can't have an increase in PAL athletic programs. That's how my life was saved. Gang outreach programs led by police officers through sports and youth leadership. We can do the same in East San Jose. I agree with you, HG. Let's make the East Side the best side, but it's only going to happen with someone with the technical skills to get those resources.
Rolando, thank you. Next is Nora Campos.
Thank you. Public safety is one of the fundamental responsibilities of the city. When I served on the city council, San Jose enjoyed the distinction of being the safest big city in America, and our fire department had 5 persons to a rig. We also built new fire stations, so our firefighters had updated stations to serve the neighborhoods. We built back our police department to the levels where they were at 12 years ago. That's where I will focus. Since I left office, we've lost 200 police officers. I will continue to make sure that our public safety departments are the best trained at a national level. Like anything else, if you don't make it a priority to invest in public safety, the results will be more of what we see today. When I served on the city council, we had 2 dedicated code enforcement officers for District 5. So the city of San Jose had a system for residents to report blight and illegal dumping. And I would address this because it is important for code enforcement to be able to respond within 48 hours to 72 hours so that they're removing the illegal dumping in your community. The other unique thing is that when I was on the city council, I was able to secure 2 code enforcement officers that only worked within East San Jose District 5. So they had the ability to be proactive and address these issues as well as monitor. I will get us back there. When I was on the city council, we had a strong gang task force, which I was a part of. We were nationally recognized for out-of-the-box type of collaboration and programs. And we work with many of the nonprofits here in the city of San Jose. I will make sure that we put money into our youth centers so they are open on the weekends when they should be open, because our children should have a safe place to go on the weekends and play and build relationships within our community. Public safety is a #1 priority for me, whether it's the fire department or whether it's our police officers. The other thing that I will work
Thank
on.
you. Nora, thank you. Next, we have H.G. Wynn.
Thank you, Juan. And let me say thank you to Rolando for agreeing with me. Once I'm in office, you my partner.
Oh, that's
Chief of
funny.
staff.
that's funny.
We can work together to make this side San Jose the best side San Jose.
I'm being polite, HG. Don't go too far.
My friends, I feel you. All of us are frustrated. We just need to drive on our District 5 streets to witness the neglect. It is unthinkable. It is unacceptable. I had great experience working with businesses, residents, law enforcement to successfully stop immediately all crimes in our neighboring Little Saigon corridor. Within 1 month, all criminal activities ceased. And now it is a vibrant and safe business trip to visit and work. I work hard, and I'm committed to create a nice and safe District 5 for all of us to live, work, and play. This is my forte, and I have found a sound formula that works and works successfully, and I intend to apply it in District 5 once you vote me in. My friends, together we can make a difference in District 5, and together we can build the East Side San Jose, the best side San Jose. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the next category, and again, there were questions related to this, is unhoused/homelessness. And the first person to answer this one will be Andres Quintero. And the question is, how will you address the unhoused situation and any impacts to neighborhoods?
I think this, taken as a package, is part of the other issues that we talked about with regard to quality of life. The situation with homelessness has become untenable. We have individuals that are being demonized because they don't have a place to live, and that's not right. We also have communities that are being terrorized by individuals who are clearly not able to deal in a regular civilized society because of sickness and illness that they may have. The fact of the matter is that we need to take a bold step, move forward, and allow these individuals to get the help that they need. Unfortunately, we've heard a lot of people pushing back on the governor. I think that the governor, for once, finally decided to take a step that is in the right direction of ensuring that people aren't devolving and deteriorating out in public. We have individuals that are sleeping on the median, not even panhandling. They're just sleeping there in the middle of the day and the sun hitting them. Those individuals are not able to take care of themselves. And we as a society need to step in and support them to ensure that we, as the quote unquote village, goes and supports these individuals that definitely need the help that they rightfully deserve, as just part of a civilized society that cares, that has compassion. And it goes hand in hand. We need to ensure that the communities are not being terrorized by individuals that are out there breaking windows and engaging in irrational behavior by taking and being supportive of these bold steps that are being promoted. We have San Francisco, for example, that serves as a case in point of what can happen when you disregard. We're getting there. Unfortunately, we're not that far behind. I personally had an individual who clearly was unstable come after me as I was coming out of a store right here in the East Side and attempt to attack me for simply talking on the cell phone, having a conversation out in front of a store. This is not normal. Those individuals need help, and we need to provide that help. So with regard to the unhoused, it's going to be a two-prong approach of ensuring that we're looking out for our community, but at the same time, getting those folks the help that they need. We can't be heavy-handed in this situation. Individuals need support.
Thank you. Thank you, Andres. So next is Rolando Bonilla.
Well, I think, as I've stated earlier, from a personal standpoint, I've been homeless. We lost our home when I was in high school. We had instability, and I know what that means. But having said that, I go back to my earlier points. Where we are today as a city, particularly in our district, is decades of neglect from City Hall in terms of recognizing this is even a problem. So unfortunately, we are now in a position where in order for us to reclaim our neighborhood and equally to provide folks with support, we will have to utilize county's law that will allow for law enforcement to remove folks that are clearly a danger to themselves and to the community from our streets. That must happen right away. It is not dignified for them to live on the street, and it is not dignified for us to be expected to live under that threat. Equally, though, I think there's a lot the city can do from a resource and economic support standpoint to keep families like mine out of homelessness in the first place. I think the city has a major role to play in terms of investing, not just in businesses, but equally in terms of economic support. And I'll give you a great example of that. When, COVID shut down businesses during the pandemic, I sprung right into action, having just gotten out of the hospital, and worked with community partners to generate funding, to keep people working, to keep people with salary. At no point did the city come to help. At no point did the county come to help. And in fact, if you ask a lot of these families, they'll tell you they're still waiting for help. There are ways that the city, through financing, can quite easily come in, utilize our tax dollars, and reinvest them into our community to keep people from losing their home in the first place. I mean, look, you have no greater crisis than the one we just went through, and the city failed miserably. The city failed to recognize that what families needed was bridge funding to get them through this pandemic, and that's still not happening. So what we're going to need is programs, educational programs, but equally funding to help support an infrastructure that will keep people from losing their home in the first place. Equally, legal support to keep from people being evicted in the first place. These are practical things that the city of San Jose can do today if it chooses to do so. That'll make an impact in terms of keeping people off of streets, while also keeping those that are a danger to us, a danger to themselves, off the streets as well. I'll be upfront with you.
Thank you.
We
Thank
do
you,
have to
Rolando.
be
Really
tough
appreciate that.
and compassionate.
So next is Nora Campos.
You know what? Thank you for this question, because I think this is a question that we as a city have not taken the lead on. In 2016, when I served in the assembly, I saw the need to house our unhoused population. And I moved forward in creating AB 2176, which was to create tiny homes. And with that policy, and it only was a pilot program in the city of San Jose because the rest of California was not willing to move forward in creating something outside of the box that would house our unhoused population. And we created this policy here, and we were able to move forward. It's unfortunate that the city of San Jose, it took them 3 years to implement this program, because in 2016, we had 4,000 homeless individuals. And today, we probably have more than 9,000 unhoused individuals. What this bill does is it creates tiny homes and infrastructure with wraparound services to provide for individuals that may need mental health services, job assistance, and also address other needs that they may have. When the pandemic hit, Governor Newsom took the best practices from this bill and used it to address unhoused populations during the pandemic. So we were the lead in the city of San Jose in moving forward and seeing something that was coming down the pipeline that the rest of California did not see. I will work with the housing department, housing advocates, and the county to provide teams that can work to help our unhoused population secure housing. No one should be without a house in the city of San Jose. And one of the other things that I worked with the neighborhood associations within the district was to work with our nonprofits to make sure that we were bringing those resources to the Mayfair community, to Capitol Goss, to Hillview. And I have to say that without the leadership of the neighborhood associations that are currently existing and working side by side during this pandemic, we may have not gotten those services. Because if there is one thing that everyone's been talking about, it took the city a long time to respond.
Thank you. Thank you, Nora. All right, next is HG Win.
Thank you so much for this question. You see, again, this is another forte of mine. It's all related to social issues. And social and society means people. I intend to work with all of you to promote strong family in District 5. That's the root of any problems or successes. When you have a dysfunctional family, you have problems within the family, don't you? And when you have problems within your family, it spread to our neighborhoods, soon to our district, and to the rest of our city, eventually. Have you ever stopped and thought, who are these unhoused people? Have you? I do. These are family members, our community members. They are no strangers. They are one of us. You see, the problem is never too big if we all work together. So let's work together to help shelter these unhoused people. First and foremost, we have to take responsibilities from within. We have to take good care of our own family members, help our own neighbors. Together we clean up the streets, take pride of ownership of our neighborhoods. There's no shortcut, but together we will prevail, slowly, but firmly, that these unhoused people will be sheltered. That's my goal.
Thank you. Next is Peter Ortiz.
Thank you, Juan, for the question. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I've had a different pathway to public office. I come to this position with personal experience. I myself was homeless. I know what it's like to be forced to sleep at a park bench here in District 5. I know what it's like to experience housing insecurity and to be vulnerable to crime and violence at night. I approach this homeless epidemic with a human lens. Many of us have lived paycheck to paycheck, and in several situations have been a hospital bill or car repairment bill away from being put out on the street. At the end of the day, the current abatements are not working. The city's just moving people from street to street. Our goal should be to get our neighbors in the homeless community housed, as well as to provide those in need the mental health services and substance abuse services they need to get right again. We cannot have them out in the cold when every year more and more of them pass away due to the elements. The community plan to end homelessness, which has been approved by the county, offers a comprehensive set of solutions from policy land use changes to services necessary to support homeless residents. We need to also have the important conversation about creating and supporting permanent supportive housing options for the homeless community. Without creating permanent solutions, we are not going to solve this very complex issue. In the interim, short-term transitional housing are important for immediate solutions. This is not a one-pronged answer. This is going to take a large commitment from everyone throughout the city of San Jose. I understand that there are people who do not want to talk about housing the homeless, but the important thing to understand is that they are already in our neighborhoods. Right now, they are in front of our libraries, they are on the sides of our schools, and they're sleeping in front of small businesses. The most sensible solution is to provide this vulnerable population in our city a county and city monitored location to live. Thank you.
All right, attendees, we have one more question. And after that, we'll have 1 minute closing statements by the candidates. And so we'll go to the next question. And there were questions related to housing that were consolidated into one housing category question. The first person to answer this will be Rolando Bonilla. What is your position on affordable housing and SB 9, which is Senate Bill 9?
I've been very clear that as far as SB 9, I'm against the idea of turning our community, which is already saturated and under-resourced, with a mixed potch lack of plan of housing. And I've always said from the very beginning, the problem with East San Jose is there's no plan in place. So when there's no plan in place, rather than helping a situation, you actually exacerbate it. And what we're already seeing is exasperated families in our community, exasperated families who are tired of the fact that our streets are under maintenance. They're tired of the fact that they have to deal with crime, are tired of the fact that they can't access parks. That happens when there is no plan. As far as housing, housing is a regional issue. The idea that the city of San Jose on its own, or a council member in District 5 on our own, is going to change housing long-term and solve the homeless problem is ludicrous and candidly demonstrative of inexperience. The only way we're going to get out of this situation is having a regional approach to housing, a regional approach to actually accessing resources, having conversations with neighboring cities and counties to create those pockets in order to ensure that we can actually build out of this current crisis. Outside of that, cities working on their own as silos, we're actually going to get further and further behind, because the reality is there's only so much land in our jurisdiction, let alone in our district, that's already overbuilt. So for us to get out of the housing crisis, we're going to have to work with neighboring cities. We're going to have a strong relationship with the mayor and the council majority to create a framework that forces the city of San Jose to have a regional conversation. Because outside of that, it's just not realistic to believe that the city of San Jose overnight is going to be able to fill that housing stock, when candidly, all projections demonstrate that we're actually about 30 years away from meeting our goals. And let's face it, within 30 years, those goals too will change. So that's my take on housing. And as far as, again, SB 9, look, in theory, I get it. But in practicality, when you apply it to our district, it is the most difficult thing you could do to our community, because we're already overpopulated. We're already under-resourced. We're already in need of more support and services.
Thank
and
you.
Yet the city doesn't mind
Rolando.
putting it in our district. Gotcha.
All right. So next is Nora Campos.
Thank you for the question. As a policymaker, I'll focus my time and energy working on building housing that can move people closer to job centers and on transit corridors. This will mean they will spend less time in their cars and on the roads. We as a city will start to work towards a city that is net carbon neutral. During my time on the city council, I was able to develop 3,000 affordable housing units in the district and worked side by side with the community as those housing projects went into their neighborhoods. I think it is very important for the community to be at the table and make sure we're having as many neighborhood meetings as we need to make sure that they understand from the developer on what is actually being proposed, and also giving input on what it will look like and how it interfaces with the neighborhoods. With that said, developers have incentives to not build their share of affordable housing, opting to pay in lieu fees. I will work to make the threshold higher for in lieu fees, so the developer will opt to build the affordable housing in the city. The process should always include neighborhood involvement and community. I look forward to working with all of you as we think about what our community will look and feel like. Housing is a necessity, and as I said before, everyone should have the ability to be housed in the city of San Jose and have a respectable unit so that they can live. And I also think it's important that we have green space within our city so that our children can play and our families can gather. That is what the city of San Jose should be thinking about. And that's what East San Jose should look and feel like. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about housing with you.
Thank you. Next is HG Wind.
Thank you. You know, I'm all in for both. We need affordable housing for young and older generations. And if you look around in our District 5, in almost every street, there are additions or more than one unit in a parcel. And they are built nicely and they serve the need of our residents in District 5. SB9 is the beginning to help solve housing issues in areas like ours. It cannot be one size fits all. No, it certainly cannot be applied to all areas in District 5. I'm not naive. But the main thing here is to know how to apply it intelligently and efficiently and effectively at local levels. And yes, it should help with shortage in housing and affordable housing. So I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Peter Ortiz.
Thank you, Juan. As your District 5 council member, you have my commitment to champion the development of all types of housing, including market rate and affordable housing in our district, as well as to advocate for anti-displacement policies like rent control, tenant preference ordinances, and just cause evictions to prevent putting people out on the street. We need affordable housing. Our youth and working people need options to afford to live in this city. And we have existing residents who are being forced to live multiple families in a single home just to get by. You drive through one of our streets in East San Jose, and you could tell this issue just by the parking. There are areas of District 5 where affordable housing makes more sense than others. I believe that affordable housing should be centered around mass transit, including light rail, BART, buses, and other transit solutions. I will also apply pressure to the city so that they make it a goal to allocate an equal amount of affordable housing within each district. The fact of the matter is several areas within District 5, including Little Portugal and the Mayfair neighborhood, have been designated to be at high risk of gentrification and displacement. Our local school districts have already lost several hundreds of students due to the cost of living, and every day more families move to the valley. We need to address the housing shortage, both by increasing the supply of housing and by passing preservation policies to prevent the displacement of our residents. I support Senate Bill 9 because it provides more housing options to struggling renters during one of the biggest housing and homelessness crises in our country. When elected, I will prioritize the implementation of SB 9 and the construction of all types of housing citywide. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is Andres Quintero.
With regard to SB 9, the fact of the matter is that it's a cry for help. It is essentially it is a sledgehammer that is being used instead of a surgical knife. And so with that said, the fact of the matter is that it is a response to a crisis that's taking place. So we got to acknowledge that. However, using the principles of stationary density, it's not the most appropriate response. The fact of the matter is that a significant amount of building in areas where the infrastructure is not there to support it will lead to significant problems and pain for those folks that are living there. Now, identifying the issues, the fact of the matter is that it is a response. I'm supportive of its efforts in principle. However, I believe that it needs to be fixed, and we need to engage in smart growth that directs housing to the areas that can support higher density. And those are areas right next to large open space parking lots that are just sitting out vacant or empty for long periods of time, that are next to places, transportation corridors. And so, with that said, housing is a significant issue. I'm proud of the fact that I have taken on this issue even at the school board level. We've established a task force for our teachers, teacher and workforce housing task force, that's looking to go ahead and provide affordable housing for teachers so that we can solve the teacher crisis that we're facing. There's a significant less number of people going into the teaching profession. Therefore, we're all fighting for the same pool of teachers right now. Those things happen when you blame teachers for every problem in society. And the fact of the matter is that people have chosen to walk instead of staying in the profession. But obviously, I've digressed. We coming back to the issue of housing, we will remove a significant number of people from the housing, from the market, therefore lessening the pressure that's on the market locally. Obviously, it's not going to solve the problem, the housing crisis that we're facing, but it will help. I'm glad to have done that. East San Jose is one of the most densely populated areas. I'm glad to have been able to fight the efforts by, for example, Sam Ricardo, who is attempting to take Rancho del Pueblo and convert it into more and more housing. We need
Thank
open
you,
space
Andres.
as well. We aren't going to solve all the
Thank
problems
you.
on our own. Thank you.
All right, everyone, we will now move on to 1 minute closing statements. We're slightly over time, or will be in just about a minute. So it's critical that candidates not exceed the 1 minute limit. I appreciate that you'll do your best to stick to that. The first candidate is Nora Campos.
First, I want to thank Juan for you bringing us together. And I want to thank the candidates for this good debate on us sharing the issues and where our platform is and how we will take District 5 to another level. We all deeply care about this district, or else we wouldn't be running. And so thank you for this opportunity to be able to have this platform to talk about the issues. Like anything, we all come to this debate with what we believe will happen and what we believe we can bring to the table. I have a vision. I've been there before. And when I left office, we had a solid, sound community that was built with neighborhood leaders and their priorities of what their community should look and feel like. I hope that you will consider my candidacy and that you will reach out to your neighbor and share with them some of the issues that we talked about.
Thank you, Nora.
There should be an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Nora. And next we have H.G. Wynn.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here today. My friends, I am experienced, committed to fair mind, no nonsense. And I am a problem solver that District 5 needs. I want this job, but I don't need this job. I want this job because I want to improve District 5 significantly. And you know what? With all of you voting for me, I will serve our District 5 well. Together, we will make the East Side San Jose the best side San Jose. That's my promise. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Cảm ơn quý vị.
Thank you. Next is Peter Ortiz.
Thank you, Juan. The residents of District 5, they deserve a leader who has been consistent in their advocacy, not people who just started their work in advocacy a year before the election cycle. Our residents deserve someone who's going to fight on their behalf, someone who cares about this city and has a track record of fighting for its residents, because plainly it's opportunism to only advocate when the cameras and newspapers are watching. I want to be clear. I'm not running for city council because I want to be a career politician or to elevate my profile or the profile of my business. I'm running because I want to make a difference in my community. You have my word that I'll be accessible and that I'll make all my decisions in partnership with the residents of our district. because I believe that together we can build an East San Jose for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Andres Quintero.
Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity to be here tonight. Andres Quintero, I've served the people of East San Jose since 2012 on the Allen Rock School Board. We've done some great things on there, such as engaging in public-private partnerships to retain our regional ball fields at Ocala, expanding access to the dual immersion programs in Vietnamese as well as in Spanish. I'm very proud of the work that we've done there to work with others to make this a better place. And with that said, I'm looking forward to working for you on the city council. We've faced some significant challenges. I'm up for the task. The fact of the matter is that the people have brought me back not once, but twice with the highest number of votes. The same people, you all who are here and voting, have brought me back multiple times. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to serve. I'm looking forward to continue to serve you on the San Jose City Council. Gracias. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Next, we have Rolando Bonilla.
As I stated from the very beginning, I want to focus on day one on public safety, homelessness, youth programs, and quality of life. East San Jose needs an elected official representing it that has the life and technical abilities by which to actually make the change that is necessary for our community. We are at a point now, a tipping point, where we can no longer afford to have elected officials in that critical position of council who don't have a real deep understanding of how to move within the legislative process. And as we've seen, that has created major consequences for our community. Crime has gone up, blight, homelessness, parking. All of these issues have been compounded over the years. And what we need now desperately is a new perspective, a perspective driven by the understanding that this job is not a career, but a vocation. Someone that's giving something up because they're driven by the idea that this is where I'm raising my kids, this is where I'm raising my grandkids, and we cannot stop until this community truly becomes a part of the city of San Jose. Thank you all.
All right, thank you. So now I want to thank all of the attendees who stayed on until the end. We did go a little bit over. I want to thank the candidates for taking the time to let us know about themselves and their views. Thank you also for seeking to serve District 5. And I want to wish everyone a good night. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Buenas noches.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Hey.
Adios,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.